Good morning. Welcome to the 15-minute Chassidus Shir. We are learning the Maamarim of the Rebbe, Vata Tetzava, Tov, Shin Mem Aleph, and we're in the middle of Ois Vov. We're on page Lamed Ches, Daf Lamed Ches, 5 lines up from the end of this Ois. The theme of this Ois is that the Moshe of each generation is Pashtus of the Moshe. The extension of Moshe in every generation, as the Zohar explained, helps the Yidden to bring out their Etzem HaNeshama, because we have the belief in Hashem, the awareness of Hashem, that Hashem is real and true. It's not just a world that functions on its own. We have this awareness from either the Neshama as it sees Elokus above in the spiritual worlds, and another aspect is, which really in a way is a deeper aspect as far as we're concerned living now, in Elam Hazah, that the etzem of the neshama as it is in the guf, that etzem neshama as it is in the guf, has this connection to Hashem. The neshama, the essence of the neshama in the guf is a nefesh elikis, a piece of Hashem, and is attached to Hashem. And when that is revealed, that leads to the Mesiras Nefesh of a Yid, that there's no life rather than only just Hashem. Only existence is being attached to Hashem through Torah and mitzvahs. From this level comes the Mesiras Nefesh. So if Moshe Rabbeinu in the Midbar brought out also the etzem of the neshama, so it should be in a pnimius in the Yidden, within the Yidden. It should be they should live with it, with the das. They were called the derdeya, the awareness, having a total awareness of Hashem internally, not as something, an idea that was distant from them, as a makif. And that was in the midbar. However, when it comes to the times of Golus, that's where you really need Mesiras Nefesh, even though the Moshe brought out the etzem of the neshama of a Yid. And in times of Golus, the Pashtus of the Moshe also brings out the Etzem Neshama of a Yid. By Moshe it showed up, they were their Deya. They knew Hashem. They had this awareness and total integration within themselves of Hashem is very real and meaningful, and they live with that. That permeated them. And the time of Golus, it comes out in a way of Mesiras Nefesh. So we're on the fifth line up, fourth word in. Val bizeh yeshlema the bizeh shebeder shehutzachu l'mesiras nefesh b'poel, that those generations that needed the Mesiras Nefesh l'poel is chizku roi Yisrael is pashtus of the Moshe, the roi Yisrael, the shepherds of the Yidden, the leaders of the Yidden, strengthened the Yidden. Which of the Roi Yisrael is Pashtus of the Moshe, the extension of the Moshe in every generation? They strengthened Samunah the Yisrael Shetib Mesiras Nefesh. They brought out the Yamunah of each of the Yidden. They should have Mesiras Nefesh. And so that in that situation is Nizgala Inyan Derai Mahemda Be'inyan Zeh Oid Yoser Mebemoshe Asmai. So in this Inyan, they were revealed the Inyan of the Rai Mahemda even more than by Moshe, because by this, that when you bring out and reveal the emunah, the belief in Hashem as it is, mitzad the etzem neshama, shalidei Moshe v'yispashtusa delay shebechol dor, and through the Moshe and his extension every generation, ikris galusa hu b'mesiras nefesh b'poil. That's when you have Mesiras Nefesh b'poil, as opposed to in the midbar they had the Das Hashem, brought the Das in the Pnimius. Oisain. V'hine yudu Hashem Mesiras Nefesh b'peilot Torah mitzvah shel kol Yisrael hoyse b'porim. The Mesiras Nefesh of the that all Yidden had, every single Yid had. This is the time of Purim. Bisman Gzeiras Haman, at the time of the Gzeira of Haman. There, the Gzeira was every Yid, men, women, and children, on the one day, and there was nowhere to run because Achashverosh controlled all civilized world. Shemesiras Nefesh the Chanukah is man Gzeiras Yavon, Hoyse be'ig b'vatas Yavonov. The time of Chanukah, who had Mesiras Nefesh? Mainly Matas Yavon and his sons, and Klal Yisrael didn't have that level of Mesiras Nefesh. However, Mesiris Nevish Bisman Xeris Haman Hoyse Bekol Yisrael every year. And now we can understand why it is that the Frierdiker Rebbe brings in his Maimer that from the Medrash the Mordechai B'Doiroi was like Moshe B'Doiroi, because the Frierdiker Rebbe is explaining that in every generation you have an extension of Moshe. So, and he takes this medrash and says like Mordechai. What was the uniqueness of Mordechai? Because the Agam, his special of the Moshe, who bechol doir, every generation you had an extension of Moshe. Mikol mokim is the medrash Mordechai davke hayshokol b'doirei k'Moshe b'doirei. That's because the medrash says that Mordechai in his generation was equal to Moshe in his generation. How do you see that? Yesh leima shemai milas the Mordechai Yehudi hu shehu hayoroya mehem the bigiloi shall kol Yisrael shebedoirei. That one of the virtues of Mordechai was that he was the faithful shepherd. He was the extension of Moshe in a revealed way for all of his generation. Other generations you could have the Raya Mahemna, but it wasn't revealed that they were affected the whole dor. Here, by Mordechai, you see he affected the whole dor. Bedugmas Moshe Raya Mahemna shehimshech das lokol Yisrael shebedoirei. Similar, like Moshe affected all of his generation by bringing out their awareness of Hashem, the das and Elokus. And you see this because the Torah refers to Moshe Rabbeinu's generation, or everyone in his generation, as though Doyer Deir, a generation that knew Hashem. And they stayed in the midbar with Moshe. And that Mordechai affected everyone, says the Medrash. So when the Frierdiker Rebbe is explaining this concept, he brings from the Medrash. Elo sheba Moshe hayagili inin zeh shehurai mehem l'chol Yisrael al yidei shehimshach das l'chol anshi doirei. As we said before, that Moshe in this, and he was revealed in this way, that he was the Raya Mahemna for all the Yidden in his generation. He brought das to everybody, the awareness and the pnimis emunas Hashem. However, Mordechai hayagili inin zeh al yidei shegila keich hamasiris nefesh shebechol anshi doirei. And Mordechai, this was revealed by Moshe. This is Mordechai because he actively brought out the Mesiris Nefesh for everybody in his generation. And so when the Frierdiker Rebbe is speaking about this in his Maimer, he brings out, he says like Mordechai. Why Mordechai? In other words, Mordechai resonated in this with the Frierdiker Rebbe, so he brought it as the example. So before we finish this ois, I need a little explanation before. In Pirkei Avos, Perik Gimel at the beginning, Akavya ben Mahal said, Histaklu b'shloisha dvarim ve'ein ataboli de'aveir. Look into three things, look deeply into three things, and you won't do an aveira. Da mashal, da me'ayin basa, know from where you came, ulo on ataholach, and to where you're going, ulifnei mi ata osi litten din cheshbon, and in front of whom are you giving a din and a cheshbon? You're going to a judgment and a reckoning. So on this, there's the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov that asks, says it's an interesting language of the Pirkei Avos. It says din v'cheshbon. When you go to give a judgment, usually you have to make a reckoning, figure it out, and then you give the judgment. Here it says you're going to give a din, you're going to give the judgment, and you're going to give a cheshbon, you're going to do the reckoning. What's happening? So the Baal Shem Tov explains a really fascinating thing. When a person's neshama leaves this world, they're coming up l'mayla, and there's going to be a judgment on them. So they want, based in Shalmaila, wants the person to be actively involved in this judgment. It's not an outside judgment, looking at them, which is fascinating how this whole system works. Mashiach should come today, and we won't go through this process. That they show a situation to the neshama, and they say, "What do you think? How do you judge this situation?" But they show him a situation of somebody else, not him. And they say, "Tell me, what's your psak on this situation? How this person did this particular thing?" And so he'll give his opinion. He'll be done. He'll be the din. And then they say, "Oh, so we're going to make the same cheshbon, the same reckoning we're going to do with you." So first is the din v'cheshbon. In other words, how you view the situation, that's how you're going to be treated. How it's by you, how it resonates with you, that's how it's going to affect you also. So you've got this process, which is even l'mayla, where it's that how things resonate with one neshama, it flows through into what's going to happen with them and to them, because it shows on how real the situation is with them. That's how the Baal Shem Tov explains the din v'cheshbon. And this is in Ha'ara number 40. Al derech pirish b'loshon the Mishnah Avis Reish Peri Gimel din v'cheshbon. You have the din, and after that you have the cheshbon. Al pi divrei HaMishnah shenifroi memena b'daitei shalom b'daitei. That his consequences are given to him. He is punished according to what he according b'daitei shalom b'daitei. What does that mean? After the person paskins the din knowingly on his friend, is pesik din la'atzmai shalei b'daitei. Then they paskin the din on him without his involvement in that. That kiven she'al pi din zeh oisen cheshbon negei la'atzmai, because since according to the din, therefore they make the cheshbon on himself. So when, based on this viewpoint, that the Rebbe says, so the Frierdiker Rebbe, when he was explaining Raya Mahemna, what resonated with him? The same way as the Neshama, what resonates with you with the din, that's really where you're at. And so therefore the din is going to be with you, on you in that way, because that's where you're at. So when the Frierdiker Rebbe, it resonates with him, the Mordechai was the Nasi, because he affected his whole Derby Giloi. That's because so too was by the Frierdiker Rebbe. That's why Mordechai resonated with him. Let's see inside. At the end of 3 lines up from the end of the Ois Zayin, at the end of the square brackets. V'yesh loime dal yedei shemevi b'mayim v'mashakosav v'medrash shemordechai b'doyroi hayishakol k'moshe b'doyroi. This that he brings in the Maimer, the Medrash, from the Medrash, that Mordechai in his generation was like Moshe in his generation. Al yedei ze pasek balamayim as a din al atzmai. The balamayim, the Frierdiker Rebbe, paskins the din on himself. Shehu aray mahemna b'giloi shekol anshe der. That he himself was the Rai Mahimna in a revealed way on all of his on the whole generation, because it resonated by him, and so he saw in somebody else, because that was what it was doing with him. And we find with the Frierdiker Rebbe that he was the engine behind Yiddishkeit under the communists throughout the whole Russia. And later, when he came to America, bolstered Yiddishkeit not only in America, not only for the group of Lubavitcher Chassidim, but all over America and all around the world. And so you can see how that there's this Ispashtus of the Moshe B'Cholder, Moshe in his generation, Mordechai in his, and the Frierdiker Rebbe, as he was saying, the Maimah also. Thank you for joining. Have a great day, and we will pick up in Mirz Hashem next year, Ois Ches.